and they remember the last thing we say to them. So if we've got a really good handle on impressing them with that first question as to why we're a good candidate, what we've achieved, all those things, and we've impressed them there, we impress them on the way out with the questions question, by reminding them of 2 or 3 of the reasons we gave them for us being a good candidate. And that's really important, because before the panel leave, they're going to revise their scores on the sheet. So in other words, as you go through the interview, you'll see the interviewers writing, and they'll be writing scores for each of the answers you've given to the questions. And when you remind them on the way out of the great things that you've done, when they go to revise that score sheet, you've embedded, you've upped their memory of what you've said about the great things you've done, and the marginal score could be really, really important. Impress them on the way in, impress them on the way out. Now, I was speaking with somebody this morning, and here's another question to avoid asking, okay? If it's your first interview and you work in the same industry and you're being interviewed by a competitor, be very careful. Avoid asking questions about the new employer's business strategy or business plans, because you're still working for a competitor. But close that off nicely by saying, I've no questions at the moment, for all the reasons we've just spoken about, and just add in a sentence, and I wouldn't dream of asking anything confidential about your strategy or your business plans until such time as we're ready to team up. What you're saying there is, it's not that I'm not interested, but I respect your confidentiality. I respect your commercial sensitivity. That, you learn points for that, because you're saying, I'm not a scoundrel. I'm not somebody who's going to come and steal your ideas and bring them back to my employer. I'm not on the make here. Really, really important. Can we go back to communications generally? And then we'll hand it over to questions. Here's an easy model to communicate with and create understanding with anybody. It starts by asking, what, when I'm finished, do I want the person to know, think, understand, do, or feel? So you can apply that to your letter of application as well. What do I want them to know, think, understand, do, or feel about me as a candidate? Okay? Before ever you write a word or say a word, a communications model says, figure out the point that you want people to walk away with. If you've no point, you're just talking or writing, you're not communicating. What do I want the person to know, think, understand, do, or feel about the issue that I'm talking about? And it could be your career, it could be anything, it could be a situation at home. What do I want them to know, think, understand, do, or feel? Second point, going back to where we started, what do they understand at the moment? What kind of language do they use? How do I need to communicate it to them? What do they need to hear? And then we get to constructing our piece of communication. And there are 4 pieces to it. The key point. Can I sum up in 2 or 3 sentences what it is I want them to know, think, understand, do, or feel? Okay? If I can't sum it up in 2 or 3 sentences, then I'm not sure myself. It was Einstein who said, if you cannot explain to your point to a 6-year-old who can then explain it to another 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. So, can I sum it up in 2 or 3 sentences? What do I want them to know, think, understand, do, or feel? Next piece. All the research tells us that people only engage with our piece of communication, whether that's oral or visual, for one of 3 reasons. If it's of benefit to them, if it's of interest to them, or if there's a threat to them. We need to catch people's interest right up front. So after we tell them what it is we want to talk to them about, we need to tell them why it's important to them. You see how this is going to work into a letter of application? but we'll put it all together in a minute. If you want to understand how easily people lose interest, think about the algorithm about which we all speak in social media. Most people make up their minds in 3 seconds whether they're going to engage with something visual in social media or move on. We have an attention span of 3 seconds. We must capture the prospective employer's attention in 3 seconds by telling them right up front what we can do for them. We get it in there. If we don't do that, it's going to get moved to another pile. So I'm writing to you about this job. This is what I can do for you, okay? And then, as I said to you earlier, we only move people's opinions from one place to another by offering evidence. So after we've got to the point of this is what I can do for you, this is the benefit of you having me on your team, we then list the evidence. And then we round out any piece of communication by talking about what we want the person to do with that. In other words, what's the point? We remind them of the point again. It's the same as the interview questions. First question, we make an impression. Last question, we make an impression. In our letter of application, here's what I want you to know. Here's why it's a benefit. Here's the evidence. Here's what I want you to know. Same model, those 4 points. And if we took that over into the way we speak at home or at work or with our neighbors, we would create understanding. But we can do that so easily on a piece of paper. I'm going to suggest that that's the model you use for your letter of application. I need you to know, think, understand, do, or feel this about me. Here's why it's important to you. Here's the pieces of evidence. Here's what I need you to do with that. 4 points to constructing a letter of application. Okay. I've said enough at this point in time. It's really important to me that I answer the questions that you have rather than just fill the time. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
So if you have a question, just raise your hand up and then we'll give you the mic.
Thank you so much. That has been very insightful. So how do you explain a career gap? So say, for example, a mom who's taking 4 years off to have kids. Obviously, you can't give them that cute story. How do you explain a career gap if you're coming back to work?
Okay. The question, in case others didn't hear it, is how do you explain a career gap if you're coming back to work, maybe looking after kids, looking after parents? The answer to it is you say it as it is. I took time out. I was a new mom. I had an elderly parent. I took time out. I looked after family. Just say it as it is. If you were going back 20 years, that might have been a difficulty. We live in a totally different society now. People understand these things. Employers understand them better. Just say it as it is. Now, if you can add into that while I was a mum, I developed some other skill, or say it as it is as well. But never be afraid to say, I took time out as a mum. Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Thank you very much for that piece. It's really, really, really very insightful. My question is, you advise that we cannot have one CV. Now, you see some job ads, right? It depends from sector to sector. Like, say, maybe in the accounting world, they might say, okay, we're looking for account receivable or account payable, something simple like that. But like in the tech world, there are many softwares. Say, for example, they might list a lot of tech, a lot of programming languages that you have not really used, although maybe you've used, commercially some of these languages. How do you now tailor your CV to maybe a piece of software that you've never really used. You might have used something similar, but like they are using a different system from what you are used to, although intuitively, they are performing the same function. So how do you now say, okay, although I haven't used this programming language or this particular framework, how do you tailor your CV in that type of a situation?
The question is really around a piece of software that maybe you have been using for a number of years, and there's a specific type of software listed in the job description, and you maybe have never used that software in and of itself. I actually had a lady come to me about 2 months ago with a similar issue. She was working with one particular piece of software and had never, ever touched the other piece of software, and she had applied for 2 jobs. She had been for interview for one of them, and it came up, and she didn't know how to answer the question, and she had a space between it and the second interview, and so she phoned me and she said, I need to talk to you about how I answer this question, because it caught me out today. And what I suggested to her was, what we need to do, and preferably we do it before we've ever applied for the job, is we need to find out a little bit about that piece of software and what it does and how it operates. And then we need to see how similar is it to what we currently use, or what are the parallels we can draw between it. And then we address the question by saying, I've used software A for 20 years, and I've been able to do the following things with it. Always, always, always about achievement. And then we say, I understand that software B operates according to these principles. And I have no difficulty in translating my experience from here to here. In other words, you're saying, I've never actually used that software before, but it's operating across a common principle, so I have the understanding. Therefore, I can get up to speed really quickly, and I can make that happen. And at the end of the day, most of the softwares have a common element within them. And it's about drawing out the things that you're really good at on that and saying, wouldn't take an awful lot for me to get up to speed and make that happen. Don't get turned off by the name of a software package. It's what you've been able to make that one do and the principles that are involved, because it's all about the algorithms, isn't it? And how they apply there, and that you could get up to speed. Is that a helpful answer? So never ever balk and say, well, I've never used that software before. Yeah. You've used something like it before. At a very elementary level, and I know the kind of software you're talking about in the financial industry is much more complicated, but as an illustration, there's a whole generation that are coming up behind us who have never used Microsoft Word. They use Google Docs. And if they were going to an employer who has a preference for Word and Excel, all they need to say is, yeah, all the principles of Google Docs are the same, I can translate it across. But you got some young people who go, no, I've never used Microsoft, I'd be terrified, okay? But it's the same principle. So we pull out the pieces that work really well for us, and we say, this is what I've achieved with it. I understand this software operates on a similar platform. I could make it do this. Take me a week or two to get up to speed, but there we go. Hope that answers your question.
Question here. You spoke a lot about evidence and stuff, but what would you say to people that are like fresh out of college and obviously don't have like work experience in the field, but the job description aligns with a lot of your characteristics and you know for a fact that you'd be good at that role? How can you kind of sell yourself without having the evidence to like give?
Okay. The question is about starting in a career. And how do we gather the evidence to show that we can do X, Y, or Z? We've all had to start a career somewhere. And when we're starting out in careers, we can't be expected to have 30 years experience or 20 years experience, and we won't be applying for a job that requires 20 or 30 years experience. So start collecting the stories from your own personal engagement and life that demonstrate you have those things. I had a young guy of 21 in the office about 3 weeks ago, applying for his first job. We knew that the questions were about decision making, and they were going to be about financial management and about team engagement. He was applying for a particular traineeship that he was looking for, just out of college, couldn't have had work experience. So we drew on stories of where in college he had to lead a team. It was a debating team. We drew on experience where he had to, he was renting a house while he was in college, and he had to budget. All small steps that show the principles. You don't have to have decades of experience to be able to think, where do I see that competence, even in a small way? And no employer is going to expect you to have all that experience at the start of a career. I'm trying to judge whether that's a helpful answer for you or not. Do you want to have a conversation about your particular circumstance afterwards, and we'll pull some of those out for you?
Yeah, as regards the experience and communication, I would like you to give an advice. This is what happened to me. So I got a job, I applied for a job role, and it was basically like a junior job role. I knew from the beginning, and I've been into tech for about 13 years now. I moved into Dublin last year. So I never knew I would be working in Dublin. My plan was to go back after some months, but based on some family, staying with the family and all of that, I had to change my plans. So I started applying for jobs. Apparently, I was getting loads of interviews. Sometimes I do have about 5 interviews in a day. They keep calling. But there was one that came to my mind, and that really struck me so hard. The interviewer called me the first time, and it was more like a chit-chat kind of interview. It was more like I was talking to my friend. Like, it was so plain and cool. So he said he's going to pass me to the HR and to move to the next stage. The next stage came. We had another phone interview for about 1 hour, and from the interview, he told me that I'll be the only candidate they'll be moving forward with, that I should come to the office. And I said, no problem. I was at the office and I met the panel, and I was asked a series of questions, technical questions, and I thought I've killed it. I guess I killed it, because at the end of the day, I felt probably I over-communicated, or I said so much of things I've experienced about the job, from database management to networking to programming and the rest of it. So is there something like being overqualified for a role? Yeah, because that's what I got at the end of the day. The guy came back to tell me I'm overqualified. Do you know the funny thing is, they told me congratulations. I'll be resuming 10th of November last year, that I'll be resuming for the job, and I was happy. Just for me to get a call, a message on the day I was supposed to get the offer, where the guy said, they're sorry to tell me I'm overqualified for the role, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how can I be overqualified? Does it mean when I get to an interview now, I should just sit back and not talk too much? Or just say all what you know, say all what you want to hear? Because at a point, I was feeling like, do I really need to say everything, or should I just say everything so I won't miss a point? And I felt they felt threatened that I might leave the job if I get better one, which I would have done. Yeah.
Threatened with good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Let me try to answer that question for you, okay? You have an unfortunate dilemma in being overqualified for that particular role. And I suspect, as you have said it, that they are terrified that you will take the role and leave within 3 or 4 months. And as I said earlier, for them to go through that process again is costly and all the rest of it. And that's unfortunate, because if you're well capable of doing the job and you're the only candidate, that's a very unfortunate position to be in. I'm going to suggest to you that next time you're applying for a post, there are my contact details on the screen behind. Give me a call and we'll talk about what you need to do. Okay? But remember the principle of it's what they need to hear, not what we need, not what we want to tell them. A really good leader, okay, a really good leader will surround themselves with people who are better and smarter than they are. But they're really good leaders. Not every leader is a good leader. And there are some leaders who are threatened by people who are smarter and better than they are, and they're insecure. So if we think that we're going to be dealing with a leader like that, what do they need to hear? They need to hear that you're capable of doing that job and that you're not going to threaten them. So we need to have rehearsed your answers in such a way that that's what they hear. And when we tell them that we can do far more than they can, an insecure leader gets very insecure and says, don't want that person because it's affecting me. They're bad leaders, by the way. But you and I have no control over who the leader is. So it takes us back to that fundamental principle of telling them what they need to hear. They need to hear that you can do this much, not that you can do that much. And that's a communications exercise in itself. Next time, contact me, we'll talk it through so that you don't oversell yourself. Okay.
My question is for those who already have the job. How do you communicate for a salary increase?
Oh, wow. Right. Okay, how do we have a job and we want a salary increase. Okay, that's a communications exercise. And what we do is, we don't sit down and say, I think I should be paid more, because that's an opinion, okay? And remember, we move people from one point of understanding to another point of understanding by offering evidence. So here's what I suggest you do. That you gather the evidence that says, I'm doing far more than I'm being paid for. I've taken on more responsibility than I was originally engaged for. Start gathering the evidence as to why your salary should be more than it is. And then sit with the person and say, here's the model, okay? Same communications model. The key point is, I need to talk to you about my role and my salary. Give them the benefit of their threat. I'm really happy being here. I want to contribute really well to the company, but I want to talk about the level of responsibility I have. Then give them 3 pieces of evidence. I've taken on this much responsibility, or when I came in, it was limited to this. I'm now doing this. I've been here 4 years without an increase, whatever the pieces of evidence are. And then round it out very politely by saying, so on that basis, I think I'm entitled to a salary increase, but it's all about the evidence, always about the evidence. If I sat with my boss and said, do you know what, I think I need a pay increase, I know the first question I'd be asked is, why? But gather the evidence, structure the evidence, talk out the evidence loud to yourself before you go in there, so that you know it sounds logical. Always evidence. Helpful? Now, is there a pay scale where you are? Is there a pay scale? Okay. Have other people come in and been paid more than you in the interim? Okay. Okay. And have you taken on more responsibility? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You've taken on more responsibility. Use that as your evidence. And use the pay increase in proportion to the amount of extra responsibility you've taken on. So if your job has doubled, you'd be looking for, if it's been a 10% or 15% increase in responsibility, 10, 15% increase. Yeah, but it's about responsibility. They understand. Anybody who's got a financial head will understand this person is doing more than they contracted for. If we were to replace them, we couldn't just replace them with 10% of a person, we'd have to get an additional person and make that business case.
Okay, so we have 2 more questions. Is that okay? And then you can ask after the session. So one anonymous question is, how do you maintain composure before an interview? For example, now, if you have heard bad news, really bad news, that's 5 minutes to the interview of your life, how do you maintain composure?
Okay. It doesn't matter whether you've heard bad news or whether you're nervous. It's the same technique. Okay. I'm conscious I'm speaking in front of a medic here. Okay. So, and I'm not a medic. I'm telling you that up front. But I want to tell you how the brain works. The base of the brain, we have the amygdala, and I was going to say the frontal lobe is at the front of the brain, but that would be a fairly obvious statement, wouldn't it? The frontal lobe is here. The amygdala looks after emotion, and the frontal lobe looks after logic. So whether we're nervous or whether we've heard bad news, or even generally when somebody says something to us and we want to reach out and throttle them, people say things that we just can't stand that anymore. What we do is we move the thought from here to here, because it hits us here first, because that's the way we're designed. It's the fight or flight reaction. And we take 2 seconds and we move the thought from here to here, and we consciously tell ourselves, I'm moving that from the point of emotion to the point of logic. I'm moving that from the point of emotion to the point of logic, and that helps to calm us. We consciously think that we're moving it from here to here. So it may be bad news, but we're no longer dealing with it in emotion, we're dealing with it in logic. It's a really good technique to try in our daily lives, because that makes our interactions with people far more pleasant when we can move things from emotion to logic. And therefore we can park the bad news there as something logical rather than something that overcomes us. It's the same with nerves. We all get nervous about things, but we tell ourselves, I'm moving this to the point of logic. I have nothing to be nervous about here. And that's how we do that. Does that answer your question?
Okay. That wasn't my question.
Oh, it wasn't your question, sorry.
Okay, my question is this. I actually came into the country last year, and I've not been able to secure a job. My background is banking industry. So I realized that the interviews I've had here in Ireland, when I go for interview, they will tell me you don't have global experience. It's been challenging for me. I'm here 1 year. I've not gotten a job in my field of compliance, but I've only been able to get a job in other menial jobs, just to keep myself doing something. I don't just want to sit back. Now, 2 questions that I have is this. I still want to work in the banking industry in my field, which is compliance, and I have a challenge of putting up my CV, because now I have 1 year gap in that field, and each time I want to apply for a job, I'll be thinking, it's been 1 year, I've not worked in the banking industry or compliance, but I've done other jobs that are not related to that. So how do I cover up for that gap? Because I feel I cannot put those job experiences in my CV that I've had in Ireland that has to do with other jobs that is not relevant to what I really want to do now. That's the first question. Then the second question is this. How do I tailor my CV such that it will impress the recruiting company, for me to get an interview, because they will look at it that I've only worked in Nigeria, I've never worked in Ireland, but I have this experience and I have this skill. Mm-hmm. I get feedbacks from them. They will say, I'm good in the job, I have the knowledge, but I have not worked, because can I read out the feedbacks? There's a feedback I've got here. I just need him to explain this because it's bothering me. Okay.
Can I interrupt you right there and say I'm happy to have a conversation about your personal circumstances, and I'm happy to tease that out with you.
Okay.
Provided you meet the technical qualifications for compliance, the rest of it is a communications issue. You see my email address there. If you email me, I'll set up a Zoom with you and we'll talk that through for your particular circumstances, if that's helpful. We are conscious of time. Thank you. Thank you.
Just thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us today and offering up your time.
My pleasure. That's unnecessary, but gratefully received. Thank you. Thank you. I just wish you God's blessing as you as you consider a career for 2024. So thank you.
Amen.
Unnecessary, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to move over to the next session. It's going to be a panel discussion, and I think you're going to find this quite interesting as well. Where's Chi? So you and I will just sit down on that side. She's going to sit down.
So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We're just going to be having a panel discussion on basically applying for a job, interview processes. We're going to learn from real life people that have actually done it. And yeah, let's see how this goes. So I just start with asking us to introduce ourselves and what we do, just to give us a bit of an insight.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Joy. I'm a biotechnologist, a research scientist.
She's actually in a paid PhD program, Dr. Joy. Okay?
Hi, everybody. Get us loud. Hi, everybody. My name is Scholastica, and I'm a project manager. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Fina, and I am a project development analyst. So I work in pharmaceuticals, basically.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm nervous. My name is Ayo. I work in IT. I'm a Unix system admin for Amdocs. That helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see, like, we have a very wide range of careers here. But like, I feel like the process would, I think it's going to be the similar process applying for the jobs that you have at the moment. So I'd like, just starting with Joy, just talk us through your application process into this PhD. Like, how did you start applying? How did you know what you wanted to do your PhD in? Did you always want to do a PhD? How did you know that's what you were doing? How did you apply? What did you do with your CV? Just talk us through the process.
Okay, yeah, for a PhD is quite similar with other jobs. Okay, why do I want to do a PhD? Research is my passion, so I've always wanted to go into research. Obviously, coming into this country, I felt that you just apply for a PhD like you would apply for other jobs, but for a PhD it's quite different. For research it's quite different. You'll have to do a lot of convincing. So it's not just about like a CV, for a PhD. Maybe I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. It's way beyond that because you'll have to come up with a proposal. So this beautiful idea that you want to do and all of that. And you'll have to look for somebody who is suited for your field, who can supervise you. So for PhD, you'll have to look for someone you can convince to supervise you, and being able to convince them means you'll have to research their field, so look for a lot of people. But more importantly, you'll have to network. For a PhD, you'll actually have to, it's just like doing, you want to propose something for a business. So you have to prove to somebody, and not just on paper, that you can do this. So you'll have to reach out to people, network, look for similar researchers in the field, talk to them, go for open days and stuff. And that will increase your chances of getting funding. And of course, you'll have to go through the application process. And there's so many funding avenues online. You can look out. Some of them you wouldn't get to see online. You'll have to network to know that they exist. So if you don't network, if you don't reach out to people, you wouldn't know that these avenues exist. So there's a lot of that. But with networking, talking to people, going out to the universities to look out for people, you'd increase your chances of getting funding. That's if you want to be funded for a PhD. And that was the process I went through.
So we're still going to come back to that process, but I'll just ask Scholar, did you find that you needed to do any personal development to get ready for this role that you're in at the moment? Did you have to do anything, or did you just apply and they gave you the job? Like, did you have to talk us through your process here?
I'll just start with the project management role that I would like to work in is not what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
That's the first thing I have to say. I had to transition from HR into project management, and that was because I had to look for a job role that would fit into my critical skills to get a work permit. So I had to leave HR, which was I've always wanted to be in the HR sector, but I had to transition into project management, and I got the job I'm doing now, I got it through project management, and the project ended, and I had to go to another role, but I'm still within the company. And it's not exactly project management, but we're still looking out to get to project management. So it wasn't, for personal development, first of all, I had to move from HR, so that was a lot of transitioning. I had to get a mentor, a career coach. I had to do a lot of learning, and not really unlearning, because every HR experience and skills was still helpful for project management, but I had a lot of learning. I had a lot of, YouTube was my friend. YouTube was my guy. I had YouTube, I had to go on Coursera, I had to go to Udemy. I had a lot of training, certifications I had to do to get to the job role that I want at the time and right now. So
just to ask you, just because you said you transitioned across careers, right? So speak to someone who is looking to transition. You've mentioned, I would never have thought about YouTube for work, to be honest with you. It's a new thing for me. So speak to someone, like, where can they find these resources? Because for me, I'm thinking, if you're looking for a job, LinkedIn is your guy. So we're going outside of LinkedIn now. What are these other places that we can find information from?
LinkedIn is still very, very helpful, very helpful. But I feel like people don't really know how helpful YouTube is. It's not just for music videos. It's actually, they have lots of videos on interviews, lots of videos on certain certifications and certain things that you can do or you can work on. There's one I saw, Adriana Girdler, and I've been following her for like over a year now, and she does YouTube videos on transitioning into project management, even other career paths. So there are so many videos on YouTube that you can actually watch that could help you start up your process and even guide you through it. Definitely there are other resources you have to go to. I know Coursera is good. I know Udemy is good because you can get good certifications. You can get good skill sets there. And you can volunteer online. There's so many opportunities you can volunteer. There's so many projects you can work on online. Now this is me talking from project management perspective, but there's so many areas you can actually work on. But YouTube and going to different online platforms that you can do your studies, you can do your skill sets, and the rest of it. So definitely YouTube is good. Amongst others, LinkedIn worked for me as well. I have done some skill sets and certifications in LinkedIn. It's very, very helpful. But another one that I feel like most people don't really know about, or they don't think it's that helpful, it's actually YouTube. Okay. Just type it in. It's there.
Thank you very much. So just to ask you, did you also transition, or was this always the path you've been on?
Okay, I guess it's been the path I've been on since college. Yeah, it's always been pharmaceutical. So my course, my undergrad was pharmaceutical and industrial chemistry, and then my master's was in pharmaceutical science. So it was always centered around that. Though I'm a creative person, science was always something that, you know, my parents pushed me towards. But that being said, it is something that I still have a passion for, something I still love doing and enjoy doing. I think at the core of who I am, I'm a researcher. And that was evident during my final year project and during my master's as well. Because when I'm left alone to research a certain topic, I just come alive, because then there's just no limits to what you can do. Now, working when I first started my career, I started as a QC analyst. And if anyone here I know one person who would know something about QC, being a QC analyst here, but it's very structured, and there is no room for, being creative. Yeah. You're given X amount of batches to test. This is what you need to do. This is, you need to get your results. Basically, a QC analyst, for anyone who doesn't know, is someone who basically just, you test the products that the company have manufactured to make sure that they meet the specifications that that have been set basically for them, to say that they're okay for consumption. Basically, they meet the specs before they meet whatever the specifications are, that it can be shipped out and sold to consumers. So whatever paracetamol you use, whatever it is, they had to have been tested basically before they reach the counter. And there is no room for any of that. So my role now is more development. So it's before the products even get to the QC lab, my role now is doing the research around that. So we'll figure out why it's not working, why it's working, and there's just more flexibility to that. So I think that kind of fed back into something that I did and that I did like in college. But would I say that I've always loved this, or I always knew I was going to end up in this particular role? No, I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. But I saw the life of a medical doctor, and I really, you guys are doing great, but it's just not for me. So this is more suited for me right now, yeah.
So just speaking into your role and your journey, I heard you say undergrad and postgrad, and the things that you did during your undergrad and postgrad. What are these things that you did? How did you build up to get to where you are now? So did you attend fairs? I'm also in pharmaceuticals as well. So did you attend, I know at the time when I was in college, job fairs were a big thing, but I found that we go to job fairs and you just walk from one booth to the other booth and then you come out and nothing, right? They didn't really do much for me, to be honest with you. And it's not because they were not good, but at the time I did not understand how to network. So I just went there as an event. I wasn't getting anything out of it. And I know that now, looking back a few years down the line, there are things I do differently. So what did you do to get you into this role? Because a QC role is not the easiest role to bag. So what did you do? How did you build up your CV? How did you strategically apply for this role?
So I would say before I even got my first job outside of college after graduating, my college was good in a sense. I think most colleges do it, but we had a work experience, and it was around third year, and you go work for about 6 to 8 months in a company, and some companies don't pay you, but I was lucky enough that this company paid me. Now, when these interviews came around, I was someone who wasn't allowed to work when I was in secondary school or college, and my parents were just focus on school, so I was a bit nervous going in because I didn't really have experience. It was after this, my parents were okay with me working, but before this, I wasn't allowed to. So I went into that interview first, and I was already nervous, but one thing I can do is talk. I can talk to say, we can talk about, I can go there to talk to you about one thing, and we'll talk about something else, and you'll be looking at me like, we didn't even talk about what we came here to talk about. And I think that's a skill that I have used over the years to learn to network. So how I got started was at that interview, we started talking. We didn't even talk about technical things. We started talking about family. And by the time you know it, they were like, you know what, you have the personality that we would love on our team. And I was just like, good, because I probably don't have the technical skills. But we got there, and I started working with them, and I learned a lot. And it was in a QC lab. And I gained the skills that I would need then for when I did graduate to say, look, I don't have a lot of experience, but I did work in a lab, and these are the skills that I learned, and that helped me when I was talking to recruiters. It helped me when I was talking to any companies at fairs or whatever, or even when I'm talking to people who I would say, oh, look, can you put my CV down for this job or whatever, I would say, I've learned this, I've learned that, and I was able to build my CV based on that then. So I hope that kind of answered the question.
So I just have a question for him. So you are, tell us again what you do.
I'm a Unix system admin, so I basically deal with Mac OS.
So you're a tech guy, Sha?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
So for a tech guy, I suppose applying for jobs for the regular person is that we learned today now from him that there are things you have to pay attention to, algorithms and all of that.
Okay.
But that would be your comfort zone, I would think, because... No, okay. No. So what was it like in your own journey applying for tech roles? Because I just feel like you can't overtake a tech person. Do you know what I mean? Like HR people might not be very tech savvy, but the tech guys, they know what you know.
Okay.
So like, how did you apply for your roles? Did you get help with your CV? Did you have to do something on your CV? Did you have to do extra courses? Just talk.
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So tech. Everybody, tech guys, it's very technical. I don't really want to go into too much technicalities. I like operations more than technicalities. But from Nigeria, you have to actually be a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? So I went to college for computer science. Then I came to Ireland for my master's. And during that time, during my master's, I got a job, like door to door, right? And it helped. I didn't like talking to people. I'm very private. I like staying by myself and be by myself, right? But that role got me out and about. So I had to talk to people to sell things. And, I don't know if you know door to door, the guys that knock on your door and they sell you things. It was the hardest job for me, right? Because you have to walk around, you have to talk when you don't want to talk, but you have to make money, So I did that. And my first ever role was, I just got out of college, master's, and HubSpot. I don't know if you know HubSpot. It's a tech IT company. And it was an internship. And what they saw is I had computer science as my degree, and I also had sales, which means I could talk to people, but I knew technical stuff as well. So they gave me that internship, and they kept on extending it. And after the internship, I got into Toast, which was a technical engineering job, which I'm like, okay, well, that was not new, because I could talk to people, and I could express myself with small computer science sense. Right, in this job, every time you move from a job to job, you add new things to your CV, right? Because what you learn here, you can add to your CV, and it helps you the next job. And what I always say is, being good at something is not a prerequisite to do something, right? So if I'm good at dancing, doesn't mean I have to go and dance. But my job I'm in right now, I didn't apply for it. They reached out to me. Yeah, so they saw me on LinkedIn. I didn't even know I'll be good at the Unix system admin. I was good at Macs. I was very good at computers. So they reached out to me and said, oh, we like your CV, blah, blah, blah. The first interview came, and it was good. Second interview came, it was good. Then it took a while. And they reached out to me saying, we're not filling this role anymore. It's okay. I said, okay, whatever God wants, I'll do. And they reached out to me actually 2 months again and said, oh, yeah, we actually want you. Your interview was really good. And so what I'm saying is, because you don't feel like you have the experience for a job, doesn't mean you're not really suited for that job. You can look for a job on LinkedIn and say, oh, this is too big. It needs 750,000 years of experience, and you only have 5 years. But what they see in you is sometimes what they see, I know everybody says believe in yourself, right? But what people see in you sometimes is bigger than what you see in yourself. Okay. So I didn't see myself being a Unix system admin, but they saw it in me. And during the interview, it was like Finna said, I was just talking to my manager right now, and we're just gisting, right? We're just having a chat. I didn't necessarily they didn't even ask me any technical questions that I couldn't answer, nothing I had to research about. But after I got this job, I've done other certifications, like she said, on Udemy and YouTube. YouTube is great resource, right? YouTube, apart from my college, YouTube helped me graduate, because when people talk to me, I don't learn from people talking to me. I learn by myself. That's why I say I'm very secluded. I'll go and sit down by myself and watch a video and learn it. You can talk to me 500 years, I will not learn anything unless I'm sitting by myself, right? And YouTube helped me go through college, it helped me go through masters. And what was I saying? The certificate is eCollege. I don't know if you know about eCollege. Yeah, so eCollege is an Irish website where you actually, is a course, 12 weeks or something, they give you blah, blah, blah. And after you finish that course, they actually pay for your exam for you. So they pay for your exam. You don't have to put any money out. So I got other certifications because I'm trying to branch into project management. I'm trying to leave the technicality into like actually dealing with people because I might not like it, but I'm sort of good at it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like, it's, yeah, like, if I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. One last question for you.
Okay.
Speak about your LinkedIn. So you said that they found you.
Yes.
So definitely there was something on your LinkedIn. How did they find you? A LinkedIn or?
LinkedIn, yeah, they found me on
Good.
LinkedIn.
So speak about your LinkedIn. Did you have to do anything to beef up your LinkedIn? Or is it's just there and you're not doing anything with it? So do you update your roles? Do you update your LinkedIn, just so that we learn how to be found?
Oh, yeah.
More than going to look for people, we want to be found. So what do we do to get seen?
Okay, I did update my roles, but I like to lean on, like, a lot of people say, it's too much Christian, but I like to lean on favor. Like, favor is a big thing that works in my life. So my first job was HubSpot. You might not know it, but in the technical industry is a very big company. HubSpot is American company big. After that, I worked at Toast. So I think when they found me, they found, this guy's worked for this company and this company and this company. And I didn't put myself in no company. God put me there. So it doesn't matter what you know, right? That's how they say God will break protocols for you. Like faith and favor is a big thing that works for people, especially when you believe. Like when I was listening to the woman that said she came from Nigeria and she banking industry, right? I totally understand that, like, you might be in a different sector and everything, but when I lead into favor works for me. It could work for you if you believe in it, but I know it works for me. So that's what I'm saying. They found me on LinkedIn because they searched for somebody and I popped up. Anybody else could have popped up, but I popped up. Why? Because favor of God, no?
Yeah. I'm so 100% into favor. But I also think that there's a place of work. So there's something on your LinkedIn. If your LinkedIn is empty, you won't come up on the search.
You have no idea. You pop up.
Algorithms and all. So like if they search for a random name and there's nothing on your bio, you won't come up.
Okay,
there has to be something on your bio.
Like I said, maybe it's because of the companies I worked in, and every time, like, you have to be your CV could just be plain, right? But you have to be very specific, like what he said. You have to be very specific what you did and how you achieve certain goals, right? So in my company, where I'm right now, I'm the focal point for macOS in the whole of EMEA, right? And where did that stem from? HubSpot, I was working in Macs, and that's all. That you have some Windows, but I like Macs, and that's what I made known in my LinkedIn, that I'm a Mac OS guy. And that's what they were looking for, and that's what they found.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. So this question is for you, Joy. It's just with PhDs. Like, when I hear people do a PhD, I know that they pay for a PhD. So I'm not sure why they are paying you when others are paying the school. So I would like for you to educate us, how do we get paid for the hard work that we do instead of paying people to work for them? Like, how did you find, because I have a personal experience of someone who's applied for PhD, written proposals, done the full shebang, and eventually she was fortunate enough to get one that she had to pay them to do all that work. And it never made sense to me why I have to pay you to do your work. So speak to us, like, how do we, let's say, for example, I want to apply for a paid PhD. Where do I start from? What do I do?
First of all, let me just correct you. So for PhDs, there's your work. It's either you want to do work for the person or you want to do your work. So you have to decide, your chances of being paid for a PhD, of course, is if you want to work for them. That increases your chances. But nonetheless, you can get paid for doing your work, what you want to do, So the first thing is, if you want to go into research, you want to go into something like postgraduate studies, PhD, and you want to get funded, you have to be sure. So PhD is not something that you be like, okay, it's just an option for me, because you're just going to give up. It's rugged, especially in this country, trying to get funding, because it's in Ireland. The island is small, compared to, so the opportunities are small as well, So you have to, first of all, like I tell people, you have to decide if you want to go on this journey. Are you sure you want to do want to do a PhD? Yes, you are sure. And then you start the hunt, like I call it, okay? So it's not the typical, you can have your LinkedIn, whatever. That doesn't really help with getting a PhD. For a PhD, you'll have to, first of all, there are funding agencies in Ireland, okay? So the knowledge base. You'll have to really take out some time and look for what is available for your field. There's the general one, which is Irish Research Council, which is like the government of Ireland funding body. It's the biggest one in Ireland, which most people would go apply to. I meet some people that say they've never heard of it, and I tell them, you don't want to do a PhD, you've never heard of IRC. So that's the first one you do. And then obviously there are others. Like I said, there are external funding methods and there are internal ones. So maybe you just finished college and you decided to further. You can reach out to, or you finished some years ago, you can always reach out to, that's why I talk about networking, reach out to your college head of department, go online and check out forums in your school. They always announce there are departmental fundings, there are faculty fundings, there's always something hidden, sometimes. So reach out to where you schooled. That's one way. For me, so there's the funding. For funding, you have to have a great proposal. And I like people to draw, when it's like, I want to do a PhD, I want to do a PhD, just to draw back. Even if it takes you 1 full year to develop a great proposal, you'll have to take out time to develop a proposal. And you will need 1, 2, or 3 even. And I'm not talking, you're talking serious stuff that you're going to do for the next 4 years. So it has to be good. Go ask people, how do I write a proposal? Don't just think because you're good at something, you know how to write a proposal. It has to be catching. So there's so many people wanting funding. So a prospective supervisor has to click on that proposal, and the first paragraph has to impress him, or else he will just throw it out. So your topic has to be catching. That's one. It has to be doable, realistic, It can't be, overambitious, or else they'll throw it out. And it has to be related to something that somebody is doing. So somebody is working on, what now? Maybe cancer or lung cancer, and then you have a proposal on something else, on maybe ovarian cancer. So they're just like, oh, that's not my interest. So you look for, the first thing is, what do I want to do? You decide what you want to do. And then you start to develop a proposal. And you will need help developing a proposal. You need skills. You will need people who know who can help you. You can't just sit down and do it. Neither would you just, you can't copy somebody's template. With PhD, there's no hiding. You'll have to develop a unique story for yourself. Like, this is what I want to do. This is my plan for the next 4 years. And then you start to sell it, okay? You sell it to people. Sell it to go for open, they have open days in universities and stuff like that, and it shouldn't be too long, okay? So you have to send it out to as many people as possible. If they keep telling you no, don't take no just like that. Most times when they say no to you, you say, thank you very much, but do you know anyone who might be interested in this? Many people, they tell them no, and they just say, oh, it's Irish system. This Irish system. They don't know that I'm good. You are good, but you have to keep, so you tell them, thank you. Is there any other person, I can speak to? I find that for me, 1 out of 5 people will tell me, okay, try this person. I'll speak to my colleague about this. I think he has done something like that. But if you don't keep that networking thing going, then you never know. So you'll have to push and push and push. And so awareness, very important. Go out there, don't just sit down. Go out there, go ask people, go into colleges, actually go into colleges, go into the postgraduate offices, speak to them. Like, there's just a few schools in Dublin, in Ireland. You can go. I wrote more than 15 different proposals. Each one is over 20,000 words, So I spent time developing these proposals. I went out to almost every university in Ireland to drop in a proposal to see a professor or something. Sometimes they send me back, sometimes I don't get to see them, but you have to be dogged. And one day I was just going for a casual, just an interview. I was like, okay, I'll apply for similar jobs just to get me audience, So I'll apply for something similar, and then when I get to speak to you, I'll pitch about PhD. And that was what got me funding, because eventually they said, but you're better at this, you have all this. And I'm like, oh yes, opportunity to talk about a PhD. I actually can do this, and do this for you. And eventually the guy said, I won't give you the job. I think I'll give you a PhD instead, and the rest is history. So yeah, so just you have to be dogged, and you keep pushing, you keep following. apply for as many as possible. 10 is not enough. 20 is not. 30 is not enough. I did over 100 PhD funding applications before I got this. Yeah, so don't do 10. Just keep applying, keep asking, keep pushing, keep asking people, and you will get one eventually.
Thank you very much. So I have 2 more questions for you, and we'll take questions from the audience. You spoke about getting help for your proposal. Where can we potentially get help from?
Okay, so help from your proposal. First of all, look for people who are on the scheme. I help people out with proposals, but not me now. So look for people who are into, people who are into research. Someone who is a PhD, maybe someone who has done research for some years, someone who has experience writing proposals, not just writing any book, but actually writing proposals. And there are a lot of coaching out there online. If you speak to me, anyone interested can speak to me after this, and I can actually just guide you into some forums where you can go to. But going to the university, you can speak to people. Typically, people who are into research would have written a proposal, so would know how to write it. You get what I'm saying? Would know how to write a proposal. But apart from that, go online. There are sample proposals out there that you can download. Oh, the internet is so good right now. So you can, but don't copy. Don't copy. They'll catch you. Don't copy anybody's work. You have to have your story. Okay.
I think you already spoke about the second one, just networking. So basically, it's going into schools, LinkedIn, search people out and ask questions. So we'll just take a few questions from the audience. And any questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much. My question is to Sister Joy. I promise you it's not a hard one. I think the first one is, what is the motivation for doing a PhD? Because your motive should be right? Some just want that DR in front of their name, but for you, what's the motivation? That's my first question. My second question is, a lot of people believe that you must be like 1% of the 1% to get into a PhD program. Say, for example, if you have maybe a 2-1 in your master's or maybe a 2-2, you don't have a chance. So can you speak into that, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, sir.
I'll help you with the second one.
You help me with the second one? Yeah. Okay, good, because Tim is doing PhD too. Yeah, okay, thank you, Tim. We'll share it. So my motivation, I love research. Yeah, so it's not just, some people want to do PhD as an option because maybe you can't get a job. That's good if you're going to, I say to people, don't waste your time. If you're not going to, why do 4 years research if you're not going to use it? If you're into IT, for instance, and you can just advance, and what they need is the actual know the work, not the book parts, you get what I'm saying? So my own motivation is I love research, I love communicating, I love teaching. So I don't see myself doing anything aside research. I can't do like office work, sit down and do, no. I have to know I will break the computer to see how does it work. That's my motivation. I love learning and impacting people from what I learn. And yeah, that's it. I don't know.
So the second question.
So motivation is a very key factor, and there are 2 reasons I think people do PhDs, apart from people who are not sure about why to do a PhD. One is if you want to go into an academic career, that's a big thing. So if you're going into an academic career and your end goal is that I see myself in the next 10 years being a professor, yes, the PhD is that stepping stone, kind of carries you and goes on that path. On the other hand, some people see a research question and literally they cannot sleep until they answer that question. So that's the second motivation. Now, the other one which people go into, like Joy said, is that I've done masters, I had it on, let me just go inside, let me just go and do it. And then that creates problem because when they go in there and they see the amount of work they need to do, a lot of people, like PhDs have almost like 40 to 60% dropouts, right? So that's what happens. However, am I saying a PhD is bad or is not for it? People can do it. So I didn't do a master's. I did my, my undergrad, worked clinically for 10 years, and then during that time, I fell in love with research. So I didn't do a master's, but I did a lot of research during my clinical years. So by the time I came to do my PhD, I found my supervisor, which is one thing. If you're doing a PhD, you have to have a good supervisor, and the second thing is that you have to have a good topic. So I found my supervisor, and he said, look, if you're interested, you've done lots, you have some background in research, I will show you how to make it work. So we now applied for funding, and again, that's what Joy said. Apply for funding, write a group proposal, and we got the funding. So I'm funded to do my PhD as well as my clinical work as well. So that is the way in terms of kind of deciding and kind of cracking on from that perspective. Yeah.
So the question is, if you're not an A student.
So that's the thing. You don't have to be an A student. So like what I'm trying to point out is like I didn't do most people will do masters, but it's opportunities. And, so for example, now, if, let's say you were doing IT, and during that IT phase, you found that there were some things, questions you wanted to answer, you go to the university, you speak to supervisors, you network, and that's why networking is very important. I didn't sit down at home and hope for the supervisor to come and meet me. I'm not joking. Before I got my PhD opportunity, I drove around Ireland meeting various supervisors, telling them, look, I want to do this. Do you have a good topic? And when I went there and I said, this was their topic, I'm like, no, I don't really like that. So I walked away. I drove down to Cork. That time I was living in Galway. Drove down to Dublin. Drove around to find what I was looking for. So if you're not ready to put in that work, you're not going to find it. But I didn't do a master's. I didn't do a master's or get a 2-1 to now move into a PhD.
Sorry, I'll just add to what Tim said because Tim is a doctor. So sometimes we other people. That just go do a course in something else, and then we don't have clinical experience and all of that. Anyway, so the truth is, it's harder for somebody with a 2-2. So maybe you finished your first degree with a 2-2 or even a 2-1. They mostly would go for first class, But I would say one thing he said was, it is harder, but the networking, if you're ready to put in the hard work, it's either that or I would say to you, go do a master's degree. If you have a 2-2 or a 2-1, go get a master's degree. That would help. I mean, the number of years you spend applying for a PhD, master's is what, 1 year, and you're done with a master's. So fresh off master's, try getting a good grade. Yeah, because research is not, you have to be able to work hard. So if you can't convince me that you have a master's, maybe a 2 to something in master's, and you can't convince me that you can put in that kind of hard work, the doggedness for a PhD, because I would say, what did you do in 1 year why is your grade this low? But nevertheless, because anything could have happened during your experience, I believe you can still do it. Even if you had a third class, speak to me when you're finished. You can still do it. There are strategies. It is research. It's not, it's research. And you just need to convince somebody that you can do research. That's what you need to do.
Sorry, I need to add something. I know I don't have a PhD or doing a PhD, but as someone who is really close and as someone who have a lot of friends and colleagues or classmates that did do PhDs, it is possible to go from an undergrad straight to a PhD, and you don't have to have a first class, as Dave said as well. And this is like from knowing someone who had to repeat a few times in college. But the difference was that their supervisors saw that they had the passion and saw that even though they were not the most serious student or they were not great at exams, they were good at research and that they had the passion for it. So don't count yourself out just because you don't look like the typical candidate for anything. So if you think that this is something you want to do, where there's a will, I believe there's a way. So, yeah.
Exactly. All right, just give it up for our panel discussion today. Thank you so much. All right, so we have refreshments in the room over there, and then once we're done, we have about kind of 10 minutes, and then we'll now come back and now continue on our next session, which will go into entrepreneurship. So just another round of applause for our panel. And also just feel free to meet them afterwards as well if you want to have a chat and everything. So there's going to be refreshments in that area. Thank you so much.
And I have the honor to introduce the next speaker to us. Just before I mention his name, I'm going to go ahead and read a very short bio just so you have an idea of the person that is standing right in front of you. So this person has over 25 years of management experience within services, technology, hospitality, retail, management training, and in the research sectors. He has excellent leadership, communications, and operational skills, and has managed a number of teams. He's a skilled project and change manager. He's delivered exceptional outcomes in restructuring, process improvements, and commercial projects while meeting budgetary and corporate KPIs in complex and diverse environments. Delivering on-site and online management educational programs, in areas of project management and performance management. He has the ability to work and build relationships with a wide variety of stakeholders. He has set up and managed a number of commercial businesses. We have the right person speaking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite Paul Berry on stage.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Paul Berry. I'm a business advisor with the Local Enterprise Office. The Local Enterprise Office is an office that is a government run or funded office, and we're based in the Dublin City Council buildings. So I'm just going to take you through what we do, and if we'll have a Q&A afterwards if anybody has any questions. Okay. So really we're the first stop shop for anybody that wants to set up a business in Ireland. We promote starting businesses, growing businesses, sustaining businesses. So what we have then, there are 31 LEOs around the country. There are 4 in Dublin. You would normally go to your local enterprise office in your geographical area, wherever the business is going to be set up. There are 4 in Dublin. We have 1 in Fingal. We have South Dublin. We've Dunleary Rathdown, and we've Dublin City, and that's where I come from. Dublin City is Dublin 1 to 13, 17, and 22. The rest are all spread between the other 4. I think there's 3 in Cork. 1 in West Cork and 2 in Cork, North and South. So that's where it's just to go to your local enterprise office. They're all based in council buildings. So the city council buildings is where they're all based. You'll see there from you'll see our website, but if you want to find your own local one, you would just put in www.localenterprise.ie, and then you can find your local one. Are we moving on? No. Oh yeah. Really, it is what we are there to do is build jobs in Ireland, in every city, to help entrepreneurs to start businesses in certain areas, and hopefully then they can look to export into the future. We'll look now at some of our supports and services, just to give you an idea of what we actually do. And this is every LEO around the country as well. So the types of supports, we have a suite of grants: feasibility grant, priming grant, and an expansion grant. Because it is public money, there are always eligibility criteria. So I would say always go onto the website and have a look and see if you're eligible to apply for this particular grant through your local enterprise office. Other things like the trading online voucher, and we'll go through what that is in a minute as well. We have technical assistance for micro-exporters, innovation vouchers, and then we've Microfinance Ireland business loans, which I'll talk you through as well. So a sort of an example of the eligibility criteria, we look for people have, I suppose, businesses that are 1 to 10 employees. That has increased to 1 to 50 from last January. So we look after that cohort of businesses. It's sort of in the manufacturing or tech area, but we do have other services that we have for other businesses, internationally traded services as well, and businesses that have a potential to export is what we look towards too. The trading online voucher is something that is that proves very popular. So if you want to create an e-commerce website, and it must be an e-commerce website, so you must be able to sell something from the website, you can apply for a trading online voucher. The way it works is you attend an informational and then you get an application form, but it is matched funding up to 2,500. So 2,500 euros we will match to your 2,500 euros. There's a couple of stipulations, and one is that you don't have the website already in existence, or you haven't paid a deposit for that. So it's pre, it's not post. You can also have 2 of these in a lifetime. So if you decided you wanted to create an e-commerce website, phase 1, and then maybe a year or 2 later upgrade it, then that would be considered for a second trading online voucher. So a lot of places like a barber shop might have it for bookings, so the people can book in and pay online. If you're selling a product, people go online and buy products online. They're the type of things that the trading online voucher is there for. During COVID, we went as a national organization from 1,200 a year to 12,000 in the 1 year. In 2021. So a lot of people had realized they had nowhere, when COVID came, they had nowhere to sell their products or their services. So they went in a panic mode, I suppose, to try and find somewhere to do that. Okay? We don't recommend website providers. We're only involved in the grant piece of that. So finding somebody to build your website, that would be up to you. Okay? The next is the sort of feasibility grant, and this is really around looking at the feasibility of something. Okay? Again, it's matched funding, and you can see what it looks like. It looks like consultancy requirements, hiring of expertise and specialists, which is consultancy, I suppose, as well. So there's various things there, but it's a maximum 50%. And you can read about it on our website as well. I would say to everybody, you really do need to look at the eligibility criteria as to whether you're eligible for the feasibility grant or not. We don't tend to support sort of retail as yet. That may be something further down the line, we're not sure. But there are other services that we provide. If you want to go into that, you'll see all these slides can be shared, so if you need them, just contact Jim, and he will actually share the slides with you. They're there for, all the information's in there. So, who do we support? These are the types of businesses we support in one way or another, and there are many, many, many people that we support. We've been around a long time. In the current iteration as the local enterprise office under the councils, we've been there since 2014. Prior to that, we were the enterprise boards. So, been around a long time. These are the types of businesses that we do support as well. This is a recycled and reclaimed copper, and this guy makes some beautiful pieces of art, I would say. Yeah. And then this lady, the last lady was, she was a clothing manufacturer as well. So we would support her in certain ways too. I just want to go through some of the training piece, which I think that's her there. She's a jewelry. We also support the likes of, say, we supported sort of Wacky Clothing, which was a clothing maker in Dublin, and she was down at the ploughing championships this year as our representative in the local enterprise office tent, which we have at the ploughing championship every year. So it's a good selling opportunity for something like that. Okay. Training for all businesses. I look after, particularly one of my portfolios is the whole training piece, and we have a huge portfolio of training that we run every single year. It ranges from podcasting for beginners, Facebook for business, LinkedIn for business, website protection and GDPR. It goes through all the sort of marketing, general business, finance areas to help businesses to learn. What we have at the start, and I'll just take you through this, we have business advice clinics that run nearly every week. And if you're thinking of setting up a business in Ireland, get online and register to attend one of the business advice clinics. What they do is the people that run them will tell you exactly what it takes to set a business up in Ireland. Okay, and they're really helpful. They're actually free, so you can attend them if you have an idea. You don't have to divulge your idea. Some of them are held in person, but most of them are held online in a group scenario. So if you have a really good idea, you may not want to divulge that in the group scenario, but you can still ask questions because they are interactive. So I think that's always the best place to start. If you're thinking of setting up a business in Ireland, that's it. It will tell you if it's a good idea to set up as a sole trader, or do you need to set a company up straight away, or all those type of questions that you might have. And as I say, they're on every week. We also then have a Start Your Own Business course. So I would always say after your business advice clinic, if you still want to move forward, I would say go and attend the Start Your Own Business course. It does have an administration charge of €80 or €75, depending on where you are in the country, but it is a 5-week, twice a week commitment. And it will take you through all that you need to do to get your business up and rolling. It will get you to creating a business plan. So it delves down into all the various different components of setting a business up. So I'd always say to somebody, if you're really interested and have the passion to set up a business, then move on to this step. Give yourself the best chance possible to be successful by investing in yourself for that 5 weeks. And that's all it is. And we run, Dublin City runs about 15 of these every year. And all around the country as well, they would run them. So wherever you are, go to your local enterprise office and register online for these. Most of them are online as well now, but they really are helpful. We also have prepare your grant applications workshops, so it helps you to fill out grant applications for the grants that we have. Creating a business plan, I've also pulled out something like the Lean Model Canvas, which is a really helpful piece of paper to guide you through what you need in your business. But we also have individual 3-hour workshops in those as well. We do a lot around finance because that's where we feel a lot of things fall, is around the finance piece. While people have the passion, they sometimes can forget about the finance. And you might have a really, really, really good idea, but if you're not on top of the finance or understand the finance piece, that idea may never come to fruition. And I come from setting businesses up myself over a long number of years. I'm only in this role about 1.5 years. So I know the humps and bumps of business, and my last business I had, I did after, I think it was about 18 months, the bank manager rang me and said, I'm not going to be paying any of your bills next week. So what did that do? It made me sort of perk up and go, okay, I need to start understanding my finance. I need to know where the cash is coming from. I need to follow my debtors. I need to do a weekly cash flow. I need to do a weekly reconciliation. It's all of those. Now, the business did survive, but it was on that cusp of not surviving. And that's why I would say, if you ever see any of those, is the Dragon's Den or any of those programs you see on TV about people presenting in front of the dragons to get money for their business idea, where do they fall down? Every time. Finance. They can't talk to the numbers. They don't know how they make profit. They don't know how much they have to sell to make profit. So we would say to you, always have an understanding of your finance, so that, because with accountants, you can have an accountant, but you can't, as a small business, you can't afford to have an accountant beside you 24/7 advising you. So I would say, start to understand it. We run things like a Fundamentals in Business Accounting program, which is a four-night, 4-week program. If you attend all of those, you get the option to get a year's subscription to the Big Red Cloud accountancy package. So that's a sort of an add-on to that particular thing. There is administration fees or participation fees associated with all of these, but anything that we do is heavily subsidized by the government. So 3-hour workshops are typically €20, just to give you an idea around that thing. So it is very cost effective for a small business, because I'm well aware that small business doesn't have a lot of money to play with. So are the government, very aware of that. A lot of our programs, if you go out to and try and get them into a company, they'll cost you, €600, €700, €800 each. So this is what we're doing to help SMEs move forward to the next steps, take the next level. We also meet people in the offices, and sometimes people will come in and say, well, I'm giving my job up on Friday because I have this great idea and I am going to roll with it. And my first answer to that question is stop, don't do that. Please. Because you got to pay the bills, you got to pay the rent, you got to feed your family. So take it slowly. If you have an idea to set a business up, take it slowly. Do your business advice clinic. Do your start your own business course. Because start your own business course, we do them during the day and also in the evening. So I think there's a Tuesday, Thursday, and a Wednesday. Tuesday, Thursday, I think is during the day in the mornings, and then the Wednesday, Saturday is from 6:30 to 9:30 every evening for the course. So twice a week. So don't do it quickly. You can hold on for a few months to get the business up and rolling. So don't panic. Don't be giving up jobs immediately until you're ready to do so. In my own business, what I did was I did a consultancy for 6 months while I had set the business and opened the business up. So I went into a previous employer and I worked Sunday, Monday, and then I worked in the business from Tuesday to Saturday. And then that just kept going and going. And it is tough. It's tough setting up a business, but it can be very rewarding as well. Okay, we also look at business management development and leadership programs, and they're based around businesses, and normally they're for people that already have businesses. So to develop your management skills as your business is growing as well, I think, and we also offer those as well. These are other things that we would use, that we would have. They're programs, Green for Micro, Lean for Micro, and digital as well. So you can read about all of those. The green, I'll just do the green. The Green for Micro is an initiative that we run to help people understand what their business looks like from a green perspective. So it's a consultancy piece that people go in and look at your business and see how green or ungreen it is. And they sort of put a plan together for you to develop your green credentials. A lot of people now are finding, if they're dealing with international companies, they're all starting now to ask for, so tell me about your green credentials. Where are you on that scale? And if you have a plan, at least you can show them where you're at. The Lean for Micro is another really good program that we run. There is a cost involved, a small cost involved in that, but it's for existing businesses that want to look at their efficiency to see how efficient am I? Can I save by doing things differently? And most of the people that get onto that program who have existing businesses do save quite a substantial amount of money in just moving things around or being more efficient on the factory floor, or just doing things like that. So again, it's a consultancy piece that's provided at a very reasonable cost to help you make your business more efficient and more productive, and probably release more cash to be able to employ somebody or a part-time person. So that's Lean for Micro. The other side of the business that we have, and my colleague looks after this, is we have a mentoring, I suppose, portfolio, if you want to call it that. And we have a panel of about 40 mentors, okay? And what mentors do is they mentor you in general business, in marketing, in, I suppose, finance, those type of areas, in business strategy. To avail of some mentoring, I think it's €10 for 3 hours. All of our mentors are highly experienced in running their own businesses at some stage. They know what they're talking about. But what I would say to you is, if you're going to apply for mentoring, is to know what you're going there for. So the best way to get the best out of mentoring is to go in there and have the problem that you're trying to solve ready, so that you're getting the best out of the mentor that's there in front of you, because they are very experienced people. We tend to do 2 by 3 hours or 1 by 6 hours is the sort of limit that we have. But what I sometimes say to people is, go in, have a 2-hour session with the mentor, do some work based on the mentor's report, then go back and have another 2 hours once you're ready and you've done the work. So if you can see where I'm going with this, is that you get advice, you implement the advice, and then you go back and get more advice and you implement that advice. So I think that's how to best deal with getting mentoring. But it is in a load of different areas, as you can see: social media and digital marketing, marketing, sales, finance, business advice, strategy, all those type of areas that all our training is that's the subject matter of all our training portfolio as well. We have these, we're connected into what we call Focus on Food. So for anybody that wants to set up a food business, and most of them are food businesses that have that sort of production, I suppose, piece to them. So you can see there, we're connected into the Digital School of Food, the Food Academy program, and I think there's one food starter program starting very shortly, actually, or has already started. But it's to help people with an idea they have from a food production perspective. So if you look at the likes of, say, you may not, Ballymaloe Foods, if anybody knows of them or heard of them, they're based in Cork. They started in the bottom of their garden, and now they're an internationally export company and have sell in I don't know how many countries around the world, based in starting off in a little, as I say, portakabin in the bottom of their garden, producing tomato relish and all those type of things. So there's some very successful stories out of Ireland from a food perspective. So Microfinance Ireland, just to let you know, this is another body that's been set up by the government some time ago, and it is a body that loans money from 5,000 to 25,000 euros. It takes more risk than the banks. as everyone will be aware, the banks don't take very much risk around loans or giving money out. Microfinance is put in place to sort of bridge that gap a little bit. They will still ask you for your business plan. So that's why I'm saying, if you haven't a business plan, you need to get one. Because anywhere you go to look for funding, grants, loans, you will always, always, always need some form of a business plan to present to the people that you're looking for. Same with investors. If you have a really good idea and you go out looking for investors, same thing. They'll ask for a business plan. They'll ask for a pitch. And we do also do workshops on how to pitch your business to investors. So we cover all the spectrum of things that a small business would need to do to be able to move forward, set up and move forward. These are just some of the areas that we would, and companies that we're involved with. We have a huge ecosystem. I would say the previous speakers were talking about a network. It's important, but making sure that you're strategic about the networking events that you go to, because we can all network morning, noon, and night, 365 days a year. But how effective is it? Okay. We will be running this year again during Local Enterprise Week from the 4th to the 10th of March. It's always the first week in March, all around the country. But in Dublin City, we'll be running an event, a networking event, that sort of shows you how to network. Because the idea I had in putting it together was it's to take the fear out of networking. Because a lot of people fear walking into a room on their own. And I certainly was one of those. I never liked it. But I now can walk into a room and, it doesn't matter. It is about knowing what you're there for. It's about not panicking. It's about just trying to enjoy the network, have a couple of conversations with people. Why am I here? Have I looked into why I'm going in the first place? Is it strategic for me to be here? So that's what I would say to you about networking, is pick the networking that's going to be of strategic value to you. And really, that's me. That's what we do in general. So if there are any questions, I can try and answer them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, put your hands together for Paul. That's an amazing, amazing session. It's quite nice to know that there's a lot of support, especially from the part of the government, for the small businesses and growing businesses as well. So thank you very much for the information. I mean, a lot of this we were not aware of before, but we do realize now that there's a lot of support for businesses. So at this time, we have some time for questions. If you would like to ask any question. Okay, I see a number of hands going up already. Because of our time, please just go straight to your question, and we'll try and take as many questions as we can. So if you'd like to, please come take the question.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
I just have a question about, is the local enterprise office, are they involved with like non-profit or social enterprises, or is it exclusively just businesses?
No, not normally. Normally we're for commercial businesses. But what I would say to you is to look to the councils and to look to some other organizations in the ecosystem, because they do look after social enterprises as well. We do have something called So Circular. It's run by our EDO department in the council, not in the local enterprise office. And they very much support those type of businesses as well. We had an event, what was it, that we helped a man with them. It was last year and it was called So Circular. It was in the round room at the Mansion House, and we had 52 businesses from there. And it was really quite an impressive day. But there is, one thing I'll say to you as well is, the local enterprise office is one of many supports and services. It is a busy area, and I would always say to you, research, 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 because it can be hard to meander your way through the noise that's there, and there's a lot of it. But there is a lot of support from various different departments. Department of Enterprise, there's Enterprise Ireland, there's a local enterprise office, there's the likes of, say, SkillsNet, there's the likes of Mentors Work, there's, the list is endless on supports that are there, but sometimes it can be really difficult to find them. Yep.
I could see that for the loan threshold is from 5 grand to 25 grand. But what if I come with a purchase order of 50 grand and I'm looking for a sponsor for this? So the question is there an exception for me to have above more than 25 grand? That's one. Then if yes, then are there any kind of requirements or criteria that I would have to show for this?
For any of the loans that you would go through, yes, it would be like going to a bank for a loan. There will be requirements from Microfinance Ireland as well. You would need to go onto their site and see what they are. With Microfinance Ireland, if you come through your local enterprise office, you can get a preferential rate, which is currently 5.5%. If you go directly to them, it's 6.5%. So, but they will ask the questions, there's no question about that. They will ask you what your business idea is. They will look to see your business plan. Where do you, logically, they're going to ask you, how are you going to pay this back? They won't ask that question, but that's the question they're asking. Can I see through your business plan how it's all going to work? Where the sales are coming from, what your utilities and expenses look like, and what's the bottom line? Can you pay me back? I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Because of our time, I'm not sure we'll be able to take any more questions, even though I have a question as well. Because in the course of your conversation, you had talked about the kinds of businesses that you focus on with your enterprise. So I was wondering, how do we differentiate between a social enterprise or a commercial enterprise for the sake of those that are wondering?
A social enterprise is one normally that's a not-for-profit, and that the money sort of goes back into the organization. There are bodies like the charity sector and those that would look you get more information from there. The businesses we look for are those that are commercially viable and that have the possibility of maybe exporting one day. But they could be lifestyle businesses as well that we would support. They need to be commercial from our perspective. That's our brief. Our brief is to look after small to medium enterprises that are commercial, and to help them start, help them grow, and help them sustain. And a lot of it is around sustaining as well your business as it grows through its various life cycles. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, please jam your hands together for Paul for a very, very wonderful session. But just before we let you go, Paul, 1 second, we have something for you. Okay, yep, I got it right here. On behalf of the Total Enrichment team, I'd like to present you with this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's been an amazing session. The first part of the conference, we've talked a lot about careers and all of that, and now we're taking a look at businesses, entrepreneurship, and all of that. Now, he's giving us the perspective from the government perspective, the support and all of that you receive from the government. But right now, we're going into another panel discussion, and this time we'll be talking to people that have been in these businesses, have started up businesses and all of that. But particularly for women that have been in this space. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be inviting our panelists for today. They know themselves already, so but if I can have my panelists, and when they get up here, I will introduce them properly. So please put your hands together for Joy as she comes up, Miss Joy. And then I'm also going to be inviting our second panelist, which is Miss Emerenshire. I hope I've pronounced that properly. Okay, I see she's seated over there. Please put your hands together as they come up to join, as she comes up as well. Lydia, if you don't mind, please help us with extra microphones for our panelists. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I said, our conversation today is about women in entrepreneurship. Just in case you're wondering, I am a very, very male man. I'm not a woman. I'm honored to be the one to champion and to chair this conversation. But what I'm very passionate about supporting the minority societies, and incidentally, the women are one of the very, very key parts of that, and that's probably why I'm excited to be here on this panel sharing this. So I know a lot of people might be wondering, especially for people here, I would just like to just give us an idea of, talk to us about you in case we're meeting you for the very first time, for those that may be wondering. In 1 minute, tell us about yourselves. So I think I would start with you, yes.
Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once more, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Chief, for inviting me to attend your today's session, November 25th, 2023. My name is Emerencia, and I live in Ireland for the past 24 years. At the moment, I am an entrepreneur. I will start first of all with my qualification. I started in the country with a business degree. I did a 4 years honors business degree, and then later on, I moved and I did a master's in logistics in the DCU. Why I did that, I was working as a pharmacy manager with Lloyd's Pharmacy, where health is actually my background. But at the same time, I enjoy my own lifestyle of being an entrepreneur and being working for myself. So I had a dream of being an entrepreneur. Ages maybe 10, 15 years ago when I had my kids, I wanted to follow that area. But again, I had some drawback because my kids were a bit younger. But when they tend to go older, then I decided then to follow my career. Currently, I own 2 businesses. The very first businesses I own, it's a healthcare recruitment business, which is, I call it Irish Locums. And a lot of people will ask, even I get emails from people everywhere asking who is the owner of Irish Locum, because the name is actually term to be owned by someone who is an Irish or born in Ireland. But when you go into business and you have a business mentor, they will guide you exactly of how to open a business and how to stand up in a business very well. And one of the reasons why I chose Irish Locums was because there is a lot of foreign people in Ireland. Myself, I'm from Cameroon, from original, who has a lot of foreign people in Ireland that they have the qualifications, they have different background, they have different skills, but they are finding it extremely hard to actually go through, maybe have a job. As one of my sisters, when I just walked in, was trying to highlight that she's a banker, and she was finding it hard to actually, and she is still finding it hard to actually get a job in the field. There is no magic about that. It's the key thing is about you have to start from the bottom, and that's exactly where I started. When I met a business mentor, one of the drive I insisted was that I had a lot of challenges when I came into the country. I could say I was well qualified, but I find it was very difficult for me to actually locate a job. So I realized that if I break through that and I could locate a job, that means that there's a lot of people behind there as well that needed this breakthrough as well. And that is where Irish locums came into existence. With Irish locums, we don't only recruit one profession, we do medical doctors, healthcare assistants, nurses, pharmacists, and pharmacy technicians as well. And last 2 or 3 months, we were also granted the permission where we can recruit abroad as well. So, Irish Locum has been in existence since 2021, since 2020-2021, and it has gone far beyond what I expected, from an employee of 3 to an employee of 83 within this short period of time. I have to say it's hard work to actually get it done, or to get the books and the paperwork absolutely up to date. It's not impossible to do. Everything there's possibility, but you need to be patient and you need to take your time in what you do.
Oh, wow. You need to be patient and you need to take your time with what you. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. I mean, she's giving us valuable tips there. Imagine having to build a business starting off with 3 employees, and now she has over 80 employees. We're going to dig deeper into that in the course of our conversations to get to know how to do this. But I'm going to jump on to Joy for a bit. Now, so we know you, I mean, you have a background, you're a PhD researcher. You heard this pick up earlier as well. So one might be wondering, what inspired you to diversify into this entrepreneurship space? I mean, into private coaching and all of that. What was the inspiration? And please tell us a bit more about that as well.
Okay, hi again, everyone. So, first of all, okay, what I do is, in terms of entrepreneurship, I told Tim that this thing I'm doing, it's not as deep as people are saying it, but I feel like people need to know that there's a lot of stuff you can actually do, especially for women. First of all, you know, he was saying, introduce yourself in 1 minute. So, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, because we're doing women in entrepreneurship. So I really feel I come from that direction, okay? So a wife, a mom, a student, you know, so many things in one. But yet I came into this country maybe 10 years ago. That's after moved from England to here, and noticed it was so hard to get a job. Trying to get a job with all the degrees and everything, it's just so hard to get a job. And then, you know, you sit down there and then you're just not doing anything. And of course, many of us will agree that that's, especially I just got married. So like a young wife, just doing nothing, becoming a nag every day, watching the time for when my husband will come back, you know, and saying, but you're 10 minutes late, I thought you finished. And I told myself, you know, I listened to someone one time and said, that said to me, get busy instead of just doing nothing. And I was like, okay, what can I do? It's not like I have such capital to start such a big business and all of that. So and I looked inwardly, and so I'd like to introduce myself as a writer. Writing is my passion. I looked inwardly, and I started writing from when I was maybe primary school, primary 2, primary 3. And I know that when I was that little, I wrote a poetry book that, you know, that my primary school still uses till date. And I told myself, you can write, and you just write for pleasure. You just write, okay. You know, people just say, oh, I love writing, and you just journal and stuff. And I was like, why can't I turn my writing into, you know, a money-making venture? And that's when I started my ghostwriting business. So I do ghostwriting, and I'm an academic writing coach as well. So I'll talk about that. But basically, I'm just saying my journey. I started ghostwriting and ghostwriting basically just you writing for people. Okay, so you write stuff for people, and you get paid for writing for people. You don't get acknowledged, so you don't put your name to it. Okay, you write books for people, and you could just sit down in your home. So I started with 0 capital. Of course, I didn't need money to start that business. So I started just sitting down and writing for people, going online. There's so many platforms where you can write for people if you know how to write. And there's so many things you can write. You don't have to be such a good writer. So I started writing for Canva and so many other writing companies. and getting paid, obviously, started growing the business, making more money, writing for so many other people. And at some point, I started writing not just articles, I started writing books. I write books for people in so many parts of the world. And then as I started going into the academic, I said, oh, why I write? I love writing. What inspired me to go into academic writing coaching was because of bad writing. Okay, so sorry, I'm being that blunt, but I would see something and I would just be like, no, it's just not good. It's just not good. And I noticed the trend, and I was like, why not help people write better? Why not everybody has that strength of writing? So if I'm that good at, I have such a critical eye for seeing error, and I know you have so many platforms where you can go Grammarly and all of that, but there's nothing like somebody actually, looking at your work. So I started writing for, helping people with correcting their work, just for fun, my friends and all of that. And then I thought as well, like, why not do this for money as well? So I noticed the demand for, coaching and writing is really increasing. And that's how I started, coaching people to write and the ghostwriting business as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a round of applause for that. I mean, like it is popularly said that if you're actually looking for excuses not to do something, I guarantee you will find. She's introduced herself. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's an academic researcher. But despite that, she's been able to start up a business. That's something amazing. Some other people have put themselves back from not getting into business or entrepreneurship because of these things that she's talked about. But despite that, she's been able to pull through. Thank you very much. And there's something else you put there, because some people might be wondering, oh, what can I do? How can I know what to do? And she talked about building a business around her passion. A lot of us are passionate about several things, but we are thinking, oh, we can't, I don't have a business to do. But she thought about something she was passionate about, and she's built a business around that, and she's growing that business. Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you for a bit. Now, you have a fully registered business that has, you just talked about having even the grants and all of that to go into recruitment of international or from abroad and all of that. Speak to us about the process of registration. That's a bottleneck that a lot of people face. I know we've just had local enterprise talk to us about, but from their own perspective. But from you that you've had to go through it from this other end, what was it like? What was the process like? And how did you actually go through it? Please speak to us about that.
Thank you for giving me the chance again. To register the business, I think people think it's a rocket science. It's just not a rocket science. It's just as ABC. When I had the vision in my head to start a business, I was looking at everything in front of me like rice. But when I sleep on my bed, I'll be like, I need to target this. So the very first thing, even when you think of being an entrepreneur or think of having a business, even if it's a two-person business, the key thing I will always tell everybody is like, go the legal way, go the straight way. When you go the straight way, you benefit a lot. And I went to the straight way. I did a lot of research. I asked a lot of people, but no one was there that have an experience in business, especially my skin type and some sort of things like that. So I researched for a while, and the only thing that saved me was that I started picking up my phone and ringing people around to ask. But I searched while I was ringing, I was searching. And then I came up online, which is very simple. If you Google it out, it will come up to you. If you Google cro.ie, www.cro.ie, that is the only place in Ireland, the entire Ireland, that a business has to be registered. It's only a 5-digit word, but that's the only place that they register any business in Ireland, and it's 20 euros to do the registration. It's as simple as that. It takes 14 days process, and you get your PIN, and that is a unique PIN that if they put it in any bureau, it will come up showing that this business has been registered. So again, it's www.c for carrot, R for rosemary, and O for ombe.ie. And that is the way you register for or any business in Ireland. That is the only central place, and it's as easy as that.
Thank you very much. So you heard it there, CRO. I think recently they have another one which is CORE that I think they're trying to migrate from that, but that CRO is still very valid. So please do that. If you're planning to set up a business, you say it's as easy as that. This is someone that has the lived experience, 14 days, and you will get your registration sorted. Okay, I'm going to come back to you for a bit, Joy. Now, you are running your business, and people are going to be wondering, how do you get to market your business? How do you get your business out there? Someone might be saying, you know what, I'm not good at marketing. I'm not a salesperson. How do I now get customers into my business? With your experience, would you share some of your tips with us?
Okay, so for ghostwriting, you'll have to really go out there. First of all, I want to say you know, before you go into something like that. Okay, let me just stick to the question. So to market, to get known in writing, you'll have to go into, a lot of writing websites, where you do ghostwriting, things like Fiverr, if you've heard about that, things like Upwork, freelance writing, and then you have to create your profile. Obviously, you need to have a good LinkedIn profile as well, and then you, of course, social media as well, a good social media network as well. So I know I opened, years ago, I opened my own writing website where I would write my work, because you want to tell people this is what I write. Go here and look at samples of things I've written, because you can't just say, for writing, you can't just say I can write, So people will have to know, what do you write? What kind of stuff do you write? So I opened my own website then and put in my stories. I would write, I'll have a weekly blog where I'll put in stories and put in stuff like that for people to go look at. And from that, I started to build my my clientele online. And for in academic writing, I have kind of like a good network because of I work closely with students. I'm in college as well and all of that. So then of course word of mouth, and then talking to people, social media as well. Things like WhatsApp and all that. And then, we'll start to grow. But obviously, the better you get at it, like what I mean, you do good work for people, and then the word will spread. Someone will say, who did this for you? And then, and from then on, you get the person's friends and the friends' friends. And before you know it, you have a large network of people who you work with.
Thank you very much. If I hear you correctly, what you're saying is the very, very best form of marketing you're talking about is having the good product itself or the good service.
Yes.
And then the word of mouth from people to other people gets to build your network, and over time, you get to expand that network. Thank you very, very much. I hope you're picking up all these tips. And if you did, please, a round of applause for Ms. Joy for that. Thank you very much. So, Emerisha, I'm going to come back to you for a bit. Now, one of the major challenges any business has is in terms of funding. So speak to us from someone that has started and running business, and the business is actually growing. How was it for you to raise finance, to start the business, and how has it been so far in the journey of raising finance to now expand the business to what it is that you're doing?
First of all, to start a business, you have to think about, you must be sure that you know about the business yourself. If you're starting a business that you are going to be depending on people to run the business for you, you are just going to go nowhere. And I think that is one of the things that survived me in the business, because with the healthcare business, I also work for the healthcare. So I started the business by just randomly nominating myself to actually cover some shifts in other pharmacy that I know them through networking. And then maybe a couple of months later on, the same pharmacist owner, they asked me if I have friends from college who can help also to cover some shifts, because at the end of the day, I couldn't do them all since I also had a full-time job. So because of my wide network and being in the pharmacy industry for 18 to 19 years, I built a lot of networking in that section, like friends of friends, friends of friends, and friends of friends. So I started then sending some friends to go and work there. Using my wage before, I used to use my wage to put into the business to run the business for the first 6 months or something like that, just to make sure that there's money coming in the business before the employers will pay the business. So at one stage then, I was running out of cash because the employers, you give them 14 days or 28 days lead time to pay. Some of them forget, some of them depend on the accountant, some of them depend on their payroll, and they will be like, oh, I'm sorry that this hasn't come through. But at the same time, you have maybe 10 clientele that you need to pay. So at one stage, this is a life story, that it was like 3 days for me to actually do payment. And I didn't have enough money in the business account to pay. And I was like, what am I going to do? And you know, with business, it's trust. If your clientele doesn't trust you, then you're going to collapse. So I had no other thing. I had a good reputation with the bank, not with business, not with banking business, but with my personal record, and my personal issue was very good with the bank. Since that then, I rang the bank. It was 3 days prior to pay my staff. I didn't have enough. I was thinking, what do I do? I have a business plan drawn by maybe a registered person, but I did not have the mind to actually contact the bank at that time, because I kept saying that I was going to take it easy. But when I had 3 days, I had 18,000 euros to pay people within 3 days. And my account only have like 2,000 euros. So I was short with 16,000 euros. There's just no way. You sign them a contract and they know that they need to be paid at the last day of the month, and you don't have the money in the account. And I had just 3 days to go. So I was calculating. I was in work calculating. I didn't know what to do. I said, you know what? This is it. So I rang the bank, pick up the phone, rang the bank. I said, listen, I need a personal loan. And they were like, for what? I said, I just need a personal loan. I need to go on holidays and stuff like that. And they were like, how much are you looking for? I said, I'm looking for 25,000 euros. So they said, put your application online. So I did Bank of Ireland. My bank is Bank of Ireland. I did AIB as well, and I did Credit Union. And within those 3, then, it's less than 24 hours you hear from them if you are successful or not. I did not use the business. By then, I did not declare to the bank that I have this business that I wanted to put money in. But those three finance agencies then approved me loan. So Credit Union approved me a loan for 10,000. Bank of Ireland gave me 25,000. And AIB gave me 20,000. That straightway was almost 65,000. Now, when you are a business person, you need to think whether you want to take a risk or you don't want to take a risk. And I believe that with business, you must take a risk. If you want to be an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, there is no petty game. It has to be blunt and a risk. You have to be a risk taker. And I am known for being a risk taker. So at that stage, then, I was thinking, what do I do? Should I take this money from these 3 places, or should I just take one? And when I asked my friends, they were like, we don't know, I don't know. But when I asked my husband, he was like, no, just take for one. I slept over it. I was like, why am I even asking him when this is my business? So I approved the loan. I took the 3 loans. Very bold. So I took the 3 loans, transferred into my Bank of Ireland account, and within a day or so, 1 day to pay everybody, I transferred the 65,000. Like, I did not even use 1 franc for myself. I transferred the 65,000 or 60,000 into the business, the Irish local business account, and I put there a loan. So that means that I need to pay that loan back to my account to pay the bank. So I was on that tight, and at the end of that day, end of the day, I paid everybody. Yet it was just 18,000. So I have money in the account. But now the next figure was like, what do I do that is going to be strong enough that I need to be coming out with at least 1,100 euros every month to pay those loans? So that was a risk taken there. In that case, then, you know what I did? I now got a mentor, Julio, which she was very good. I also got someone who is a LinkedIn creator, and I got a website organizer as well. So because I had money then, I paid those people, and they came up again properly with a great LinkedIn page for me, a great website for me where everybody there could see the page, and I pay for a marketing promotion site. So in that page then, I could see how many people were going into the site, how many people were looking for staff, and all of that. In that case then, that's the way I grew the business then until today. The business has been running very well with those 3 loans. Those 3 loans are paid within 2 years, within a year, those 3 loans were paid. And I have not even taken a business loan. And the banks have been asking me if I need a loan at now, but I don't need a loan. So I used my brain and I played it off. So you could do it. You could do it. You just have to be smart and know the right mentor and know the right people to contact when you need information. Don't rely on people who do not have the same experience of what you are looking for, because you are going to end up cracking up. Go for the right person. It might be expensive, but they are worth it to go to the right people and get the right thing done.
Wow, that's powerful. Once again, a jam your hands together for her. I mean, you mentioned quite a number of things there. You talked about, people are trying to get capital and all of that. You've talked about, yes, there's